Let me thank you all. This is a great turnout. I think to get any more people in here, we'd have to knock down a couple of walls. We don't want to do that. So thank you all very much.
For president!
As I was saying, as somebody who has known Ben Jealous for many years, has worked with Ben, I am going to do everything I can, and I hope you will do everything you can to make this man the next governor of Maryland. Now, this afternoon, I came across an article which I think tells us all that we need to know about this campaign. This is an article literally that appeared 4 years ago in the Baltimore Business Journal. Headline is, "Low Democratic Turnout Propelled Larry Hogan to Victory in Maryland Governor's Race." That's about it. Nothing more complicated than that. Let us be honest and clear. If there is a low voter turnout this election in Maryland, Larry Hogan will be reelected. Our job is not to have a low voter turnout. Our job is to have the highest voter turnout in a midterm election in the history of Maryland. All across this country, Republicans are working overtime to suppress the vote. They are scared to death of what happens when working people and young people and people of color come out to vote. They want to suppress the vote. We want to have a huge voter turnout. Let's do it. Now, I just returned on Saturday from a 9-state tour working with great candidates all across this country. And I can tell you there are candidates and supporters working hour after hour to make sure that we end one-party control of the United States government. And they are working to make certain that the agenda of the most racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted president in history will go nowhere because Democrats will control the House and the Senate. But while taking back the House and the Senate is obviously of enormous importance, it is not enough. What we need right now in governor's chairs all across this country are governors who are going to stand with the working people, they're going to stand with the elderly, they're going to stand with the children, they're going to stand with the poor, and they're going to fight for an agenda and an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And there is no candidate for governor that I know, and I've known this guy for years, no candidate for governor who has the guts to stand up and fight for ordinary people in this state. Nobody I know more than Ben Jealous. Ben has spent his entire life fighting for economic justice, fighting for racial justice, fighting for social justice, and fighting for environmental justice. That's who Ben is. This is not a new thing for Ben. This is what he has been doing his whole life, and this is what he will do as governor. I remember talking to Ben a couple of months ago, it was more than a couple of months ago, when his campaign got off the ground. And he told me about people he met here in Maryland who died because they didn't have access to health care. People whose families suffered financial ruin because when they left the hospital, their bill was enormous. Ben knows, and I know, and you know, that we must end the international embarrassment of the United States of America being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a right, not a privilege. Now, I have seen the ads, the ugly ads here in Maryland. Oh, it's impossible, it's too extravagant, it's too expensive, etc., etc. Well, I want to ask those people, how the hell does it happen that we spend twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other nation? If Canada could do it, if the UK can do it, if Scandinavia could do it, if every other major country on earth can guarantee health care to all at a significantly lower cost than we do, the state of Maryland and the United States of America can do that as well. And Ben and you and I are sick and tired of being ripped off by the drug companies who charge us the highest prices in the world. And Ben Jealous is going to stand up to their greed. And Ben knows that in Maryland or in Vermont or any state in this country, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty, that we've got to raise that minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. And when Ben and I talked about that idea a few years ago when I was running for president, it seemed like a radical idea. Well, guess what? Ain't such a radical idea today. That's what we're going to do. And Ben knows that it is insane that we have young people in Maryland and in Vermont who cannot afford to get a higher education, and others that are leaving school deeply in debt. We want to have the best educated people on earth, not people who are being destroyed by outrageous levels of student debt. So Ben and I are going to work together to move this state and country to making sure that public colleges and universities are tuition-free and we lower student debt. And when people tell us we can't afford to make public colleges and universities tuition-free, I say if Trump and his friends can give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%, you're damn well sure we can make public colleges and universities tuition-free. And Ben knows that in Maryland and in America, our infrastructure, our roads and our bridges and our water systems should not be crumbling, and we can, as a nation, create millions of good-paying union jobs, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Now, I don't have to tell anybody in this room that we have a president of the United States who is a pathological liar. And I honestly don't know if he understands. It may well be that he simply does not understand the difference between truth and falsehood. But in any case, just a couple of weeks ago, he said a real whopper. I know it's hard to keep up with all of his lies, but this one was especially significant because it had global implications. And what he said is, this climate change, we really don't know what's going on, and people have differences of opinion. Well, Mr. President, a study just came out by hundreds of scientists through the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And in fact, unlike you, Mr. President, they actually know what they are talking about. And what they have made clear is that climate change is real. It is caused by human activity. It is already causing devastating harm in our country and around the world. And frighteningly, I don't know if any of you read it, what they said is we have 12 years to transform our energy system to make significant cuts in carbon emissions, or else we're going to leave this planet in irreparable damage for our kids and our grandchildren. And Ben knows that the future of energy in this country is energy efficiency and sustainable energies like solar and wind. And he knows that when we transform our energy system and make it more energy efficient, as a nation, we are going to create millions of good-paying jobs doing that. And Ben is one of the experts in this country in understanding that we have a criminal justice system that is broken. And he knows, as the former head of the NAACP, that it makes a lot more sense as a nation and as a state to invest in jobs and education for our young people rather than jails and incarceration. And maybe most importantly, when we have a president who is trying to divide us up in an unprecedented way by the color of our skin or where we were born or our religion or our sexual orientation, Ben knows that the function of a chief executive officer is to bring us together as one people. Brothers and sisters, I have known this guy for years, and I know about the work that he has done. This man will be not only one of the greatest governors that Maryland has ever had, he will be one of the greatest governors in the United States of America. Please welcome the next governor of the state of Maryland, Ben Jealous.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.